You're listening to CX Passport, the show about creating great customer experiences with a dash of travel talk. Each episode, we'll talk with our guest about great CX, travel, and just like the best journeys, explore new directions we never anticipated. I'm your host, Rick Denton. I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport. Let's get going. Best-selling author several times over, highly sought-after Hall of Fame speaker, provider of customer experience and customer service wisdom to thousands of companies. These are all superlatives that define just a small portion of the experience of today's CX Passport guest, Shep Hyken. Even though Shep has provided wisdom in this space for decades now, he continues to deliver new insights, including a new book out September 21st, 2021, I'll Be Back, focused on customer loyalty. I'm eager to learn more about that in our conversation today. And beyond CX, you know, with a global speaking career, Shep will have some fascinating travel stories to share as well. I started this podcast with one goal: to have interesting conversations with interesting people. I have 100% confidence that goal will be achieved today. Shep, welcome to CX Passport.
Well, it is great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Really looking forward to this one. It's going to be fun. Well, let's start right off by talking about that new book, I'll Be Back, which launches on the day this episode releases, September 21st, 2021. How do you continue to find new inspiration for customer experience and service wisdom?
Sure. So, and by the way, the total title, it's I'll Be Back, How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again. And it doesn't matter if they're customers, clients, guests, members, passengers, as long as we're flying somewhere. But it all ties to getting that customer to want to come back. So so the question is, what inspires me to keep writing? Is that?
How do you come up with new insights in this space?
You know, my brain is now trained to look for these things. And, as I travel around the world, it's really easy to come up with great customer service stories and not so great. I mean, we've all had those moments where we want to never fly on that airline again. We want to, the staff at this hotel was horrendous. The meal that I had, how could they serve like that? It's really easy when the squeaky wheel is heard. It's when things go smooth, but I learn from all of this and I listen, and my brain is trained to pick up on the story. We may say something today. You may give me a line, or I may come up with something and I say, I got to write that down. And then I'll write an article about it. And after a while, I have enough articles. It might be time for a new book. That's about how it works.
It is amazing how just travel alone, and that's part of why this podcast even created, why I came up with the idea, is simply because I love travel and love customer experience. And it's amazing the insights that come from doing travel and just being out on the road or whatever that looks like. Now, one of the things that I really enjoyed in the book, and you mentioned that kind of as things are kind of steady stream, but you talked about moments. And I really liked how you talked about it's obvious to avoid the moments of misery. We get that. That's clear to most. But you also talk about avoiding moments of mediocrity. And so why is it so important to avoid not only the awful experiences, but avoid the meh experiences?
And they may not even seem like meh. They might. They're just satisfactory. And and the thing about satisfactory is you don't get a comment one way or the other. Right. And you don't know whether. Let's step back for a moment. There's a chapter in the book that covers, it's my foundational concepts about the moment of truth concept and customer amazement. And they go together. But the moment of truth, and it ties in perfectly to what we're talking about here, because the travel industry. Jan Carlson, the former president of Scandinavian Airlines, was asked to take over an airline when it was failing. And when I say failing, losing millions of dollars. I don't know if it was truly failing, but losing money, hemorrhaging millions of dollars.
Regardless, you don't want it, whatever the definition is.
That's a failure. If they're not making money, they're losing money. So anyway, he said, we got to turn this around. The way he did it was he talked about this thing called the moment of truth. He actually eventually wrote a book titled Moments of Truth, one of my favorite customer service books. And it's about maybe an hour and a half read, maybe at the most. It's a very quick little read, but here's the gist of it. He said that anytime a passenger, or whatever type of business we're in, customer, member, guest, as I mentioned earlier, anytime a passenger comes into contact with any aspect of the airline, they form an impression. And the way we manage that impression will be whether or not that customer comes back again or not.
Right.
So he said those impressions can be good and they can be bad. And by the way, he took this simple idea, the moment of truth. Anytime that customer comes into contact with any aspect of a business, they form an impression. That's the generic version, by the way. He went out to every city they had a presence and brought every airline employee into a large airplane hangar. And he just told everybody, this is what we're focusing on, the moment. And he went on to define what those moments were. Maybe it could be something that's non-people related. They see a billboard, okay? But once they get to the point where they want to make a reservation, back in the 1980s when he came up with this idea, you had to actually pick up the phone to make a reservation. There was no internet back then, okay? Right. And so you made the reservation. On the day of departure, you checked your bag at the curb, you go into the gate or the ticket counter, and then you walk to the gate. Maybe you encounter a flight attendant or somebody that smiles at you as they pass by you, which is an important interaction, even though it's not a big one. You're taken care of at the gate. You're greeted on the plane. The flight attendant takes care of you. They're greeted at the destination. You get your bag. So there's this journey that happens within the business of the journey that the customer is on. The customer is taking a trip, but within that trip, there's this journey that's happening with Scandinavian Airlines. And he said, if we manage every one of these moments of truth and more, we're going to be successful. And with that simple idea, he turned the airline around. Now, I have my spin on this, and that is there's good and bad, moments of misery and moments of magic. And moment of magic is anything that's better than average or satisfactory. It doesn't have to be over the top, blow me away. And by the way, customer amazement comes from the consistent and predictable, even slightly above average experiences that the customer has. When the customer says, they always get back to me quickly. Right. They always are so knowledgeable. They're always so helpful. They're always so friendly. The word always followed by something positive. And those positive things I just mentioned are simply expectations that any customer would want anyway. So they're not like over the top, but when they get them consistently, they get comfortable, they get confident. Now, you asked about that moment of mediocrity. That's one that Jan Carlson didn't talk about. That's the one that's average, satisfactory, just okay. And there's all kinds of studies out there that show that satisfied customers don't stay loyal. Given the opportunity to do something, some business with companies that are better than just okay, the customer will gravitate toward that. But the whole problem with mediocrity is that the customer doesn't complain. It was just okay. Or as you said, I think you went, meh.
Yeah.
Go and do that one more time for me.
Meh.
Yeah, meh. Exactly.
I think it was maybe the Simpsons were the origin of that. We'll have to explore that a little bit afterwards, but yeah. Meh.
Meh. So, and the problem with meh is you don't know, is a customer leaning toward meh, it might be good. Meh, I hope it gets better. And so if you put it into the Net Promoter Score numbers, and Net Promoter Score is when you ask a customer on a scale of 0 to 10, what's the likelihood that you'd recommend us? A 9 or a 10 is a promoter. I would recommend you. Yeah. A 7 or 8, meh, passive. Okay. Average, satisfactory, mundane, trite, pedestrian. I do crossword puzzles. I know all these words.
Well, you've got your thesaurus kicking today.
And then, of course, anything less than a 7 or 8 is a detractor who would just not want to do business and probably wouldn't refer. But anyway, the 7 and the 8, you never know which way they're leaning toward. And they don't ever complain, so you think they're happy. And that's what I call, and I've written about this before, I call that the dangerous customer. And that's not somebody that's going to come in and physically harm you. It's the danger is we don't hear from them and we think they're happy. And that's exactly the wrong thing to think. So you must find out where your customer, what they're thinking. By the way, if the customer is having a bad experience, they may tell you about it. Mm-hmm. And if they do, well, that's a gift, because your goal when you get that kind of if somebody says, hey, I have a complaint or a problem, the goal is to eliminate and mitigate it for the future.
Yeah. The complaints are gold. Absolutely. Like no company ever says, I really want to actively disappoint my customers, but it's amazing how well you can learn from a disappointed customer that complains to you, and then how you can restore that relationship and make it great on the back end of that restoration. Yeah. You said something in the book as well, and I loved it, that there is a 4-letter word, an F-bomb of customer experience and customer service. And it's probably not what folks are thinking. And it was fine. And I loved that.
How is about that? It's fine. In other words, mediocre,
Yeah.
satisfactory, just okay. What does fine mean? And let's put it this way. It may not even be truly at that level of just okay. You know, Rick, are you married?
I am. Yes.
You are. And if you ever, your spouse, if you're ever chatting and you notice that something seems amiss, do you ever say, is everything okay? And if the answer is fine, everything's fine, what does that really mean, Rick?
Boy, it means that it is not fine, and we better explore this. We better get a little deeper into this. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the best fine is ever going to be is okay.
Yeah.
And it could be worse. Now, if you put an adjective in front of it, like mighty fine, well, that's a different story.
Right.
Okay. But fine by yourself, I actually say there's an acronym, FINE, F-I-N-E. F is for the fake smile that goes along with fine. I is for the insincere feedback, because that's exactly what it is. N is for never really want to come back, if I can avoid it. And E is, well, I'm emotionless toward you. I really don't care about you. The experience was just fine.
Yeah, boy. And that's what I loved about that section in page 95. If anybody wants to turn there, it is such a great section because we hear so much about the delight and we hear about the tractor, but that middle section, there's not a lot of attention paid to. And I appreciated you doing that. And
I'm going to turn to page 95 right now. I want to see if it's there. How's the food? Fine. How's the service? Fine. How's your experience? Fine. You know?
Yeah.
So does fine really mean fine?
No, it really, really doesn't. Now, the theme of the book, right? I'll be back, how to get customers to come back again and again, right? It gets into that depth of loyalty and customer loyalty. And one of the things that I appreciate about your content on LinkedIn, and by the way, the illustrations do a great job of this, is you reminder about the basics. That's great, but contrarian views as well. And one that caught me, and it's a theme in the book as well, is not to confuse a repeat customer with a loyal customer. And that point really stuck with me. So tell me more about your thoughts on true customer loyalty, not just repeat customer appearances.
Right. So the repeat customer appears to be loyal. Mm-hmm. Loyalty is typically tied to an emotion where you want the customers to feel something about you. They feel really good about you. They trust you. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of stats and facts out there that trust drives confidence. Confidence creates loyalty. But let's step back and talk about what a repeat customer is. And by the way, repeat customers are gold. We want repeat customers. Right. Anything you can do to drive the customer coming back is really important. And there's a question that I like to use. I actually call it the loyalty question, but it's really a repeat business question.
Yeah.
But because everybody thinks of loyalty as a lifetime, I don't. I think of loyalty as the next time, every time. And yeah. So we break it down into really bite-sized chunks compared to a lifetime. And you ask yourself this simple question: is what I'm doing right now going to get this customer to come back the next time they need whatever it is that we sell or do? Mm-hmm. That's as simple as it is. And you can, and that, by the way, isn't about I'm dealing with a customer who's upset with me. What am I doing to turn it around? No, that's any interaction I have. If I'm a retailer and a customer walks in my store, did I greet them the right way that makes them feel welcome? Did I manage the experience in a way that makes them feel confident and good about doing business with us? And when they left, the last impression can be a lasting impression. Did I do it the right way? And if I'm a B2B customer, I may have talked to you on the phone. I may have sent you a proposal. Did I follow up with a thank you for your time? I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that you can touch that customer to ensure that they understand that you care enough about them to want to do business the next time. Now, repeat customers versus loyal. If a customer keeps coming back again and again, the big question is, why do they do that? Why did they decide to come back?
Yeah.
And here's what I want you to know. They can come back for a number of different reasons. In the perfect world, they're coming back because they love you and they would never do business with anyone else. Hence the loyal customer. But leading up to that point, is it because you have the lowest prices? And if that's the case, they're buying you because of price. And the moment they find a price that's lower, guess what happens?
They're gone.
Gone. Yep. Yeah. Are they and by the way, this all applies to B2B as much as it does B2C, but I'm going to use some consumer examples. Do you go to a store because it's convenient? In other words, it's closer than the next closest store, which is a competitor. What happens if the competitor moves closer? So you really want to understand the why behind what's driving the repeat behavior. And I also mentioned the idea behind loyalty programs, which are often misnamed because they're really not loyalty. They're repeat customer programs.
Brilliant.
Loyalty, as I mentioned, is tied to an emotion. It's not tied to points that you get because you buy from us. I mean, if I give you a card and I have a restaurant and I say, hey, the 5th sandwich is free, that's basically saying I'm giving you a 20% discount.
Yeah, right.
You know, and if you like that, you keep coming back. But what if I didn't give you the card? Would you still keep coming back? Let's put it into travel experiences. Why do I like doing business with this airline? Many people will say, I like doing business with these different airlines because the frequent flyer program, I choose this airline because I accumulate all my miles. Why would I choose 5 different airlines and spread all my miles thin when I can go with one and get more miles and get my free trip quicker? Makes sense? Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if the airlines were to take away the mileage program and nobody had miles, and I asked this question from of many people just to hear what they want to say. So, Rick, do you have a favorite airline?
I
Don't
have.
tell me what it is yet.
No, I won't give you any brand names, but yes, I do.
And do you fly them because of the frequent flyer program? Do you like their frequent flyer program? And here's the question. If they took away all the perks, the points, the free upgrades, and everybody was the same, would you still want to fly on this airline?
There's an airline to which I'm very loyal to, and there's an airline that I'm a repeat customer. You are making the point in my own experience. And there are 2 different airlines in my hometown. And one is the one I'm loyal to, and the other is they've got me trapped because of the loyalty program. And I feel trapped, but I'm a repeat customer because of that.
Yeah, you want to accumulate your miles. Well, the one way to get out of the trap is to start using the miles.
Yeah, well, exactly. So no, if they got rid, if that airline, that second one you're describing, got rid of its loyalty program, I'm gone. That's it. I'm out. No, I wouldn't touch them again.
Right. So understand the reason that you're doing business with them isn't about your true loyalty to them. It's you're loyal to their program.
Shep, little change of pace here. You have traveled all over the globe. You travel frequently. I know you need to take a little rest from time to time. So join me here in the First Class Lounge. We will move quickly here and hopefully have some fun. What is a dream travel location from your past?
A dream, New Zealand.
Ooh, tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, the southern part of New Zealand is the coolest. It's like you take here in the U.S., and North America, you take the Rocky Mountains, you take the Canadian, the lakes, the beauty, and all the sport and adventure, being able to play golf, go into the water, ski, everything. And by the way, adventure. You jump out of airplanes, you do bungee jumping, right. All these crazy, it's all in one place. It's really beautiful.
Boy, I can see why and it's come up a lot before New Zealand has. I want to get there. I've not had the chance yet. In that vein, what's a dream travel location you've not been to yet?
Wow, that I've not been to. You know what? I'm going to go with the Holy Land. I love religion. I think it's interesting to me. I'm a spiritual person, not a religious person, but I think going and learning and being right there where the religions were born, so to speak, and just learning more about it, I think that would be a really cool place to go.
It is a fascinating place to be. That is one that I have done. And it is true when you're standing in a place that X, Y, or Z was established or a moment happened. And it's surreal to think what was happening in those places. Now, I know travel and eating go hand in hand. So what is a favorite thing for you to eat?
Ooh, favorite thing for me to eat. I love Italian food.
Hard to walk away from that. Pizza comes up, Italian food comes up.
And pizza's one thing. I'm talking about homemade pastas and an unbelievably tender, beef or veal or chicken. I love great Italian food. And by the way, pizza's not so bad. Now, as I'm traveling around, I do have favorite airport restaurants.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get the fine Italian food at an airport restaurant. But I tell you what you will get. If you go, there's some great steakhouses that have put their places into the restaurants into airports. But I'm going to try to say this correct, but it's Cuban food in Miami. There's a great restaurant, La Querta, I believe is how it's said. And I've actually been to their real restaurant in Miami, but they have this, and I go to the big one and I order the skirt steak with chimichurri sauce, the plantains and rice. And it is,
man.
I'm thinking about it right now. I may just have to go down to the Miami airport just for that.
It's a nonstop flight for you. There's a lot of ways to get in there. You can just fly in, drop in, get your meal, fly back.
Yeah.
Well,
Papados seafood, or Papados and Papacitas. Papados seafood, Papacitas. That's a Texas-based chain, and they put their restaurants in. Because you got to love In-N-Out Burger if all you want's a burger, and now those are popping up.
I was so happy when they showed up to Texas. And yes, the Papa's family does a really good job based out of Houston, and I've enjoyed their restaurants that they've expanded to the North Texas area for us. So let's go the other way. Okay. What is a thing your parents forced you to eat, but you hated as a kid?
Canned string beans.
Oh, interesting.
It ruined it for me. The only bean I will now eat is a jelly bean.
I feel like the nutritionists might have something to say about that, but I can understand how you got there. So
I like broccoli, I like Brussels sprouts, I like spinach, but
no beans.
The green beans, they ruined it. They ruined it for me.
That's awesome. Okay, so you've got a ton of travel under your belt. Now, you can't say your passport, you can't say your phone, but aside from that, what is one travel item you will not leave home without?
Wow. My dad kit. I have everything I need. If I want to look, look at this look, I got my toothbrush, my shaving kit, and without that, who knows what it's going to be like.
Shep, staying with travel and hospitality, I know it's cliche for me to say, but culture defines how a particular hospitality experience will manifest. So without a culture that's oriented around the customer, there are going to be these moments, little spectacles of customer delight, but it's rarely sustainable. So what are your thoughts around how culture drives experience and how a company can build or reinforce that culture?
Wow. And I'm so glad you asked, because there is a chapter in the book focused on creating that I'll be back culture. And I've simplified the whole concept. And by the way, that's one of the things I pride myself is making the complicated simple. But I'm going to share with you a few ideas that are required to create the right culture. First of all, you have to decide you want it. Okay. Then you have to define it. And let's use a great travel or a hotel chain that has, I think, one of the greatest definitions of what customer experience is. And it comes from the Ritz-Carlton. Horst Schultz specifically, who brought this idea that he had when he wrote a term paper when he was a teenager and in school. He brought it to him, and the title of the paper was "We're Ladies and Gentlemen Serving Ladies and Gentlemen." And that has become the credo of the Ritz-Carlton. And every company should create their own, I call it a mantra to stay away from Credo. But that mantra is that simple phrase that's easily repeated, because anybody can remember 9 words: "We're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen." If you've got, Ace Hardware, the helpful hardware place.
Right.
My personal mantra for our organization is always be amazing. Be amazing to each other, be amazing to our clients, and teach your clients to be amazing to their customers, members, guests, passengers, or whatever.
Yeah.
So you come up with your defining statement of what service looks like, and then you communicate it and you train everybody to it. Training is essential. And where most companies fail is they think training is something you did, but it needs to be something you do.
Yeah.
It's ongoing. Now, that doesn't mean you take everybody out for a day, once a week, once a quarter, once even a year. But once they're onboarded properly, and by the way, you're hiring the right people as well that will buy into this culture. And you can do that through behavioral style testing and the right interview process, et cetera, et cetera. But once they're in, you probably do some type of training to get them to understand your culture and maybe how to deliver service. But most companies feel that somebody in the warehouse doesn't need customer service training. Somebody in the accounting department who never talks to a customer doesn't need it. Wrong. Yeah. They absolutely need it more than anybody, because they're the ones behind the scenes that are supporting people internally. Or maybe like the person in the warehouse, they don't recognize that if they don't properly pack the box with with what the customer ordered, and it shows up and it's broken, that was their fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they need to understand where they fall into the experience chain. So everybody gets trained. And then, as I mentioned, ongoing. And the way to do it ongoing isn't about a big training day. Most companies have short meetings with their teams, their departments. They call them Monday morning huddles or weekly huddles or daily huddles, depending on the type of company. That's a perfect time to take 3 or 4 minutes just to remind everybody. So let's use the Ritz-Carlton again as an example. They have 24 gold standards that drive this phrase that I shared with you before, we're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And every day at the beginning of a shift, the manager brings the team together. Hey, everybody, it's time to go out there and do our thing. Today's gold standard we're going to talk about is whatever it is. Right. And it's short. They don't spend, 10 minutes on it. They spend 2 minutes maybe. But guess what? Day 2, it's number 2, day 3, 3, 4, all the way until they get to 24. And you know what they do on day 25? They start again with number 1. And at about the end of a year, the average employee at the Ritz will have heard this idea, this gold standard, probably about 10 times or so. Yeah. If they're full-time. So they're doing this every day. And by the way, I'm in St. Louis, you're in Dallas. Is that right?
That's correct.
If I think there's a Ritz-Carlton in Dallas.
There is.
Well, the Ritz-Carlton today is going to be sharing the gold standard, the same one that they do here in St. Louis.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Same in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
They're in sync with each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really is important to them that they do that. So I mentioned training, super important. Leaders have to be role models as well. They've got to demonstrate internally what should be happening outside of the customer. So those are just some ideas that are in the book, and we talk about them. And we take people through a little bit of a process. If you do this, you'll start to design that customer-focused culture. Now, warning, small companies, 2 people, 200 people, maybe even a few hundred people. It's easy to change your culture in a fairly quick time. But the smaller the business, the quicker. Okay.
Right.
Larger companies. I had a client when I was talking about the process. This is several years ago about the customer focused culture. Guy raises his hand and says, "You keep calling this simple." I said, "I do, but simple doesn't mean easy."
Yes.
How many people in your organization? And everybody there was pretty big company. And he said, "We have 35,000 people." I said, "It's going to take, 4 to 6, maybe 7 years to turn this big boat around. If you've got an issue, let me know when you want to talk about it. We can sign a contract."
Yeah.
but it's like the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But the bigger they are, the harder it is to move that massive group of people all going in the same direction. And that's what you need. You need alignment internally toward this North Star that you want to, fixate on, that will give your customers the experience that you want them to have.
That's what I love about this conversation, and I love about the book, is the practical nature of it, right? The very specific steps there. And it is important what you just said there. Simple is not the same as easy. And that's very true. But what you're describing is simple, but the effort involved will be something there. Now, I find it fascinating that it started from a term paper. I didn't know that until I read your book. And I would love to see that term paper. I wonder if that's been published out there.
Man,
but we all know the title. But I'd love to see the term paper itself. And so maybe that needs to do we both need to go
Rick,
do some Google digging.
I'm going to put this out there. This is the way to get the term paper. You should get an interview for Horst Schulze on this show and tell him you want to see the term paper. It might be in his book. He's got a great book out. It's something about class. I interviewed him for this on my podcast about a year or two ago. But it might be in there, but it's all about ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you've given me some inspiration, some ambition, some aspiration. So and the aspiration to get that term paper. Let me see if I can get him on the podcast as well.
Send me a copy.
Yeah, would be happy to do so.
Cheating at this point because it's so old.
That's right. The grade is locked in. It pains me to say this, but we're coming close to the end of time. And so I want to close out with something here, and I want to close out with travel talk. Your speaking career has taken you all over the world. And I really do. I'd love to just kind of kick back and listen and just describe some of the more unique destinations where you've been. And then a little bit of touch of how your travels have influenced that approach to customer experience and customer service. We've heard a little bit of it at the beginning, but I'd love to just kick back and just listen to some travel storytelling from you.
Wow. Gosh, I have traveled all over the world. I've been in incredibly amazing places. And I remember showing up to a foreign country, and it was Amsterdam. And I realized I don't speak the language, and I don't have a clue as to where I'm going and how to get to the train and all that. And I'm thinking anybody I talk to I could become their prey. because I'm that vulnerable. So that was kind of a scary experience. And I realized, and it was really early on in my career, one of my early international trips. And I realized, you know what? I better, every time I go out, I need to have a much better clue as to what's going on, and maybe have somebody meet me at an airport, pick me up, not be so independent to think that, oh, I'll just jump on a train. If you don't know the language and there's a language barrier, it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
That was a unique experience. I've just had one of my favorite trips I ever took with a client is I was working with an airline, and it was their meeting was in a beautiful, beautiful location in Utah. And they said, here's what you're going to do, Shep. You're going to fly in. We're going to take you to dinner. And then we're going to play golf in the morning. And when you get into the altitude of Utah, your golf ball that you normally hit, if I hit a drive 250 yards in Utah, I hit it 325.
Nice.
When I'm up there at the top of the mountain and the altitude is, and I went, wow, I turned in one of the best scores I ever had. I did my speech and I was home by dinner. That was
wow.
I worked for Patty, the scuba diving company. Professional Association of PADI diving instructors. And one of the coolest things is they said, you're going to land. We're taking you. We went in a private charter boat over to Catalina Island. This was in LA.
Nice.
We went scuba diving, had the most incredible night. Next day I did my speech. I was home by dinner. That's pretty much fun.
I'm hearing a recurring theme. Home by dinner.
Home by dinner. Well, you used to be able to do a lot of that. I even would be, it's like flying to Europe is easy, and it used to be easier. St. Louis used to be a hub for TWA, if you remember the airline years ago. So you could fly to England, Rome, Greece, Israel, Russia, Germany, everywhere from St. Louis. Well, now I have to stop somewhere. But what that meant was, and it was multiple flights throughout the day, is I could, leave in the evening, land in the morning, do the speech, and fly home late that afternoon in England and almost be home for dinner.
Yeah. Man, Shep, it is I'm one of the things that I feel very lucky about is living in the DFW area, because I do have an airport that serves that. And obviously pre-pandemic is different than current right now, but knowing that, even just mentally knowing that I could hop on a plane and get off nonstop in Sydney or get off nonstop in Qatar or whatever that might be has always been sort of a fascinating thing. Well, Shep, I have really enjoyed this conversation. How can folks get in touch with you if they want to learn a little bit more about you? Where can they find your book? I imagine it's everywhere. Tell me
it's everywhere.
How they can get in touch with you.
Amazon.com. You can go to hyken.com, hyken.com. But hey, if the title of the book, I'll Be Back, How to Get Your Customers to Come Back Again and Again. If you go to Amazon and you type in I'll Be Back, you'll be surprised what you get. There's a former presidential president that wants to be a presidential candidate again. You'll get a lot of information about.
Oh, interesting.
But nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that when you say, well, where's this book? Just put in I'll Be Back book.com. And by the way, that's the website, I'llBeBackBook.com. But if on Amazon you put in I'll Be Back book, you'll see my book pop up toward the top.
Got it.
Just add the word book.
Got it. Well, I'll make sure all of that gets in the show notes as well. And I encourage folks to reach out to you and your team. It's a fantastic, a lot of wisdom that I have gleaned around customer experience and customer service from you, not just from this conversation, from your books, from your speaking, from your LinkedIn content. You are a fantastic follow, and I encourage everyone to do that. Shep,
thank you.
A brilliant conversation today. I enjoyed every last bit of it. I'm sad that it's coming to an end, but thank you so much for carving out the time to talk to me about customer experience, talking a little bit about travel. It's been a wonderful conversation, Shep. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. Make sure to visit our website, cxpassport.com, where you can hit subscribe so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, you can check out the rest of the EX for CX website. If you're looking to get real about customer experience, EX for CX is available to help you increase revenue by starting to listen to your customers and create great experiences for every customer, every time. Thanks for listening to CX Passport, and be sure to tune in for our next episode. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.